Should women read books? At first glance, the question sounds almost absurd. In the modern world where education, access to information, and the pursuit of personal growth are seen as basic human rights, why would anyone still question whether women should read? The answer seems obvious. Of course they should. Reading fosters knowledge, nurtures critical thinking, and empowers individuals, all of which should be equally available to women as they are to men. And yet, the question continues to echo, subtly or overtly, in many parts of the world, and even within the minds of some women themselves. The persistence of this question is not just a reflection of overt discrimination, but a symptom of the deep-rooted cultural narratives that have, for generations, shaped our understanding of gender roles. In certain societies, especially those with deeply traditional values, women are still expected to prioritize domestic duties over intellectual curiosity. There is a lingering belief that a woman's primary role is to be a good wife, a nurturing mother, and a devoted caretaker. In such contexts, reading, especially for personal fulfillment or philosophical exploration, is seen as indulgent at best and subversive at worst. Books, to some, are considered a luxury that women cannot afford, not in terms of money, but in terms of time, attention, and social permission. The idea goes something like this: if a woman is reading, she must be neglecting something: the laundry, the cooking, the children, or her husband. Her attention is elsewhere. Her mind is too active. She is thinking, questioning, imagining alternatives. And that, to those clinging to rigid social norms, is unsettling. Even more troubling is the idea that reading might be dangerous for women. Dangerous not in a literal sense, but because it has the power to awaken something within them, a sense of individuality, a hunger for independence, a curiosity about the world beyond what they've been taught to accept. Reading invites questions. It challenges the status quo. It introduces new perspectives and unlocks the possibility that life could be more free, more complex, more self-defined. These subtle fears often manifest in seemingly harmless remarks. Why are you reading that? Isn't that too heavy for you? You think too much? Books won't help you raise kids. Comments like these may sound casual, but they carry the weight of centuries of expectations that women should stay in their place, speak less, accept more, and above all, not think too far outside the boundaries set for them. So, while it may appear to be a simple or outdated question, should women read books, is actually a deeply revealing one. It forces us to confront not just whether women are allowed to read, but whether they are encouraged to read, and whether they feel entitled to knowledge, imagination, and inner growth as much as anyone else. Because reading is not just an act of consuming words on a page, it is an act of self-claiming. It says, I am worth knowing more. I deserve to understand the world. I have a right to explore who I am beyond the roles assigned to me, ... And that idea, revolutionary in its simplicity, still makes some people uncomfortable. Why does this question still exist? The truth is, many women, especially in traditional environments, were taught that reading has little to do with being a good woman. They've been told, directly or indirectly, that their true worth lies in how well they serve others, as wives, mothers, caregivers, not in how much they know or understand themselves. In this worldview, reading is seen as impractical, indulgent, or even unnecessary. Some women internalize the belief that reading is only for those with time, privilege, or different lives, not for people like them. Overwhelmed by responsibilities and denied encouragement, many slowly let go of the habit of reading, and with it, parts of themselves. That's why the question, should women read, keeps coming back. Not because we lack answers, but because we still lack spaces where women feel supported in choosing knowledge for themselves. We've normalized the idea that women should give, serve, and sacrifice, but we rarely normalize the idea that women deserve to grow, reflect, and know. Books don't make women different, they help women come home to who they truly are. Reading is a personal choice. No one has to read. But when a woman chooses to, and gives herself permission to learn, she gains something powerful. Self-awareness. Books help her name emotions, understand past wounds, and connect with her inner world. Protection. From personal essays to psychology books, reading can teach women how to set healthy boundaries, recognize manipulation, and protect their peace. Confidence. Knowledge brings clarity. A well-read woman trusts her judgment, not because she knows everything, but because she knows herself. An inner sanctuary. In the pages of a book, she has a space that belongs only to her. It's not selfish, it's soul care, healing, and hope. Sometimes a single paragraph can ease pain, offer perspective, or remind her that she's not alone. Reading doesn't take anything away from women. It gives them back to themselves. Not every book is helpful, and that's why choice matters. Not all books are good, and not every book is meant for every person, especially not at every stage of their life. It's easy to forget that books, like people, carry energy, intent, and timing, and the same words that uplift one soul might feel heavy or hollow to another. What expands one person's mind might weigh down someone else's heart. And some books, even the ones celebrated everywhere, the ones topping bestseller lists, being quoted on podcasts and filling up everyone's must-read shelf, might leave you, personally, feeling more disconnected than inspired. You reach the last page, close the cover, and instead of feeling wiser or lighter, you feel a strange discomfort settle in your chest. Not because the book was badly written, but because it didn't meet you where you are. You feel doubt sneaking in through the cracks you were trying to heal. You begin to question if you're doing life wrong. You compare your slow steps to the author's triumphant leaps. And while you're trying to find hope or clarity, you end up feeling like you're behind, like you're late to your own life. The subtle danger is you might not even realize it's happening. You might tell yourself you just need to try harder to absorb the message, that if others were moved by this book, maybe the problem is you. But that's the quiet harm of reading without discernment, of treating books like prescriptions instead of invitations. Just because a book is popular doesn't mean it's sacred. Just because a writer speaks loudly doesn't mean they speak truthfully to your truth. And just because a book worked wonders for someone else doesn't mean it holds the medicine your soul needs right now. In fact, some books, even with the best intentions, can stir up wounds you weren't ready to touch, or reinforce the harsh inner critic you've been slowly trying to silence, or trigger feelings of inadequacy masked as motivation. That isn't growth. That isn't self-awareness. That isn't healing. That's subtle self-abandonment wearing the mask of progress. That's why reading should never become a race toward more. More books, more underlying quotes, more intellectual credibility. Instead, it should be a return to less noise, less pressure, less performance. It should be about alignment, intuition, resonance, about choosing books, the same way you choose a conversation with a close friend, not one who tries to fix you or preach at you, but one who listens, who sees you, who sits with you in the mess, and doesn't flinch. The right books don't rush you. They don't shame you for where you are. They don't demand that you change overnight. They gently offer new language, new vision, and new ways to be with yourself. They soften you, open you, remind you that you are not broken, just unfolding. They meet you at the exact intersection of who you've been and who you're becoming. And they don't pressure you to arrive anywhere. They simply walk beside you as you learn, unlearn, rest, and grow at your own sacred pace. So read books that help you breathe deeper, not hold your breath. Read the ones that slow your heartbeat, not spike your anxiety. Read the ones that affirm the tenderness in you, that help you return to your own voice, the one that got buried under years of trying to be what others expected. Read the ones that whisper, you're allowed to take your time. Let books be your companions, not your critics. Let them be places where your soul finds resonance, not resistance. And most of all, let your reading be a practice of coming home, again and again, to yourself. Not the idealized version of you, not the future you who has it all figured out, but the you who is already here, imperfect, evolving, enough, ... Reading or not is a choice, but access to knowledge is a right. Women, like anyone else, should be free to choose how they want to engage with the world, and that includes the freedom to read or not to read. No one should ever be shamed for not finishing a book, for not being interested in certain kinds of literature, or for simply choosing other ways to learn and grow. Reading is not a test of intelligence, nor should it ever become a measuring stick for someone's value, discipline, or moral character. But beneath that surface lies something much more essential: the right to learn, to grow, to understand yourself and the world around you, not through someone else's expectations, but through your own quiet questions and discoveries. That is a fundamental human right, and women deserve that right just as much as anyone else. Because books don't make women strange or difficult, they help women return to themselves. They offer language for feelings she couldn't name, space for thoughts she never had time to finish, and validation that her experiences are real and shared. Whether she's a full-time mother, a devoted wife, a woman navigating her career, or someone simply trying to hold it all together, books offer her something precious: empathy, comfort, insight, clarity, or even just a small moment of peace in a noisy world. And so when someone asks, should women even read? Maybe the softest, most honest answer is this: women don't have to read. But they should know they have the right to know more, to imagine more, to feel more deeply, and to choose for themselves what kind of life they want to live and what kind of voice they want to develop. That choice is power. That power is freedom. And that freedom belongs to every woman. So maybe the question was never really, should women read? But rather, what changes when women are allowed to fully choose their own minds, their own voices, their own truths? Because reading is not simply an activity, it is not just a hobby or a pastime. For many women, especially those who have been told, in countless spoken and unspoken ways, that their role is to serve rather than seek, to care rather than question, reading is a quiet act of courage. It is a form of awakening, a reclaiming, a private, radical step toward self-possession. When a woman reads, she does something that generations of her foremothers were punished, silenced, or shamed for doing. She turns inward. She listens to herself. She explores ideas that may not align with what she's been taught. She wonders. She questions. And in doing so, she begins to imagine a life shaped by choice, not just obligation. She begins to realize that her inner world is vast, not a luxury, but a landscape she has the right to explore. This is not dangerous because it weakens her, but because it strengthens her in ways that cannot be controlled. And maybe that's why, even now in modern times, the question of whether women should read still lingers in certain places, traditions, and even inside certain women themselves. Because deep down, some people understand that a woman who reads is a woman who knows. And a woman who knows herself, her history, her desires, her potential, is a woman who is far more difficult to reduce, to manipulate, or to silence. Reading invites a woman to take her life seriously, to treat her thoughts as worthy, to give her inner voice the same attention she's been taught to give everyone else's. It tells her, your mind is not a distraction from your duties. It is a sacred part of your humanity. In the pages of a book, she might discover a piece of herself she didn't know was missing, a forgotten dream, a buried belief, a long silenced question. She might find comfort in someone else's story or feel less alone in her own. She might meet ideas that scare her at first, but slowly crack open something she was never allowed to name. She might even find words for the grief, the anger, or the yearning she thought she had to hide. And in time, she might begin to understand. She's not strange for thinking deeply. She is not difficult for wanting more. She is not selfish for choosing time with her thoughts. She is not failing at life just because she seeks meaning beyond roles, routines, or what others expect her to be. She is simply, quietly, powerfully becoming whole. So no, reading is not a requirement. No woman should ever feel pressured to read as if it's another task on a long list of shoulds. But every woman should know that she can, that she is allowed, that she is welcome to learn, to reflect, to seek, to grow. Not for someone else, not to earn love or approval, but because she matters, because she is allowed to matter to herself. That is what reading offers, not a rule, but a door. Not an obligation, but an invitation to come home to herself, to the self she was before the world told her who she had to be, to the self that still exists beneath the noise, questioning, wondering, imagining, becoming. So when someone asks, should women even read? Let the answer be clear. Let it be firm and soft and fierce and true. Women don't have to read, but they deserve to know they can. They deserve access to the words that might unlock them. They deserve the freedom to pursue wisdom on their own terms. They deserve the right to sit with their questions without being rushed toward answers. They deserve to read slowly or not at all. To seek poetry, not productivity. To read for survival or for joy or for no reason at all. They deserve the space to think, to feel, to choose for themselves. Because that choice is power, and that power is freedom. And that freedom still, after all this time, is revolutionary. And it belongs to every woman. Always. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.